Lee's a starter, and Anthony Richardson is not, based on yesterday's news out of Indianapolis that the Colts have named Daniel Jones QB1. Here was Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about why Anthony Richardson is not the starter and why he ultimately went with Daniel Jones as the guy.
I think he's a veteran guy that's been around the block and seen a few things, and just seeing how he interacts with his teammates and how they've taken to him and how he's taken to them. I think he's done a really nice job, and I think the guys are excited for his opportunity. We got a good group around him. Overall, our football team, offensively, the weapons we have, that I feel that he can be successful in. AR was great. He knows that he still needs to develop and learn, and he knows that he's one play away.
Why do you think you all can win with Daniel when his career record isn't good? And the last time we saw him play football for the Giants, it wasn't good.
Well, I think that he's proven that he's played good football in that 2022 season. He had a hell of a year that year. I think that was the highest completion rate in Giants franchise history that season. So he's proven to do it. I know he's had his ups and downs, but everyone's journey is different, and feel confident in his abilities.
Felt like a little bit of a loaded question or a leading question there from whoever asked that about Daniel.
You're telling me the Colts fans don't sound excited about this? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Dang.
I mean,
talk about a letdown.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem is Colts fans, unfortunately, going into the season, they knew what they were dealing with. It's one of the reasons why teams don't mind running through rookie quarterbacks, drafting them, playing them, toss them to the side, go with the next year's class, because it creates hope and optimism. It's like people tend to like that thing in the box, the mystery box. I mean, Lee picks the mystery box. He get the mystery beer half the time, and it's purely because of the surprise element to it, even though he got screwed in Arizona. Remember, Lee, you kept getting that same beer they were trying to get rid of?
Yeah, they were trying to get rid of it.
It was like the brown ale in the bag. I digress, though.
Ew,
the problem
had brown
is
ale in his
belly.
Yeah, his belly too.
The problem is with Richardson, you kind of know what you're going to get based on what you've seen. It's been injuries. It's been inconsistent play. I mean, think about this. Shane Steichen wouldn't have to go any further than just talking about his issues being able to complete passes and move the sticks. I mean, he's completing like 42% of his passes on third down. So for as great of a talent as he is, and as much upside as there still is, I mean, he's 23 years old. He is younger than like Tyler Shuck, just got drafted in the NFL. You could probably name off 6, 7 other quarterbacks who maybe have either been in the league for a year or just got drafted in the league. He's younger than. That's what's wild, is he still has so much potential and ability. The problem is they just don't have time for him to develop, meaning Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard don't. Even though it's still keeping in the family with Mr. Jim Irsay passing away, it's still someone else in a different ownership group in control. And if you think they don't want to put their stamp on it, you're out of your mind. Anytime there's a change in ownership, they want to put their own stamp on things. They want to be working with people that they trust, they know, they hired, and then they can fire. In this case, that's not really the situation with Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, who's been there for a long time. And unfortunately, as general manager, you could probably pick and choose your spots where he's drafted well, but they haven't won a division championship. So I understand this stinks for Colts fans because they're looking at what Daniel Jones was with the Giants. But I think your hope and optimism has to be that this is going to be like a Geno Smith type resurrection. He's going to be able to turn things around, how they've looked in the past, fit into Shane Steichen's system, and with some of the talent they do have to help this team win football games.
It's very possible. If Jonathan Taylor stays healthy, he's the equivalent of a Saquon Barkley to Daniel Jones. He's a dynamic running back. He can catch the ball. I mean, he has talent. And when Daniel Jones had success, it was because the offense heavily relied on and went through the running back. So he has a talented enough. I'm not saying Jonathan is a Saquon. I'm saying he's not bad. He can be an elite guy. And if he stays healthy, he's a guy that can have really, really explosive games. It opens up the offense and protects the quarterback. He's got a great safety blanket, as you mentioned, having talent around him, and Tyler Warren. And as a rookie, I mean, who knows what he does. But Brock Bowers showed that a rookie can have strong impact on an offense and on the game plan. So I think that you can have a level of success, but it still begs the question, if you can take that weight and that pressure off of Daniel Jones to have to carry the load on his shoulder, and deliver the ball, down the field. You got Pittman who can really he can play, and we'll see if he can continue to play at a high level or even go to a higher level. But it just begs the question, if you're going to bring in Daniel Jones after you've had this high draft pick in Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson doesn't have the same opportunities to have that success with those players in position that they're in now, what does that really mean for Anthony Richardson? I feel as though they've made a definitive choice. Like we could say, he needs more development, and that's probably true. He's not going to get development in a regular season scenario, in a regular season setting. He's not. The only development he's going to be able to get is mental reps if he's going into the meeting rooms and spending those times in the meeting rooms, meeting with coaches and stuff like that during downtime, off time. He's going to have to spend extra time for development. But in terms of reps, he's not going to get development in practices. So to say he's a project or a guy that needs more development, this says to me, it screams his opportunity as the Colts starter outside of an injury or something traumatic, happening to the team, it's done. It's done for now.
At least he's not going to get tired on a drive this year.
Dang.
There's that.
He might get tired watching.
I think that's the element, too, of development that he still needs. And calling their last game of the season, he was dealing with, I think, back issues then. And talking to some of the folks around the organization, there really was a feel that he just was not acting as if he was a professional quarterback. Wasn't staying late, wasn't doing the things you typically do as a starter, throwing extra reps of whatever the new route concept is. Coming or, being able to get in there early before meetings and make sure you're prepared for everything, staying late, like all those things people expect and talk about. It's an unwritten rule. And when you talk to people within the organization, I think that was what the most disappointing part is they felt like Anthony Richardson had been there long enough to be able to at least have that opportunity for 2 years to say, all right, after his rookie year, yes, there's injuries there, but there's still a sense of like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And into year 2, you start 11 games. During those 11 games, you turn the football over too much. You're not completing enough passes on third down. And you're not doing the things that we feel like you need to do in order to be successful on a consistent basis.
They let him down.
That's the tough part.
What you're saying right now means that Shane Steichen, in a way, has enough respect or enough feelings towards Anthony Richardson to let him down light. Because to listen to what Steichen said versus to listening to what you're saying right now, Q, he let him off easy. Because if I'm Steichen, I got to say, this is why. Like, okay, it's light to say he needs more development. That's very open-ended. You just gave more light to it and detail to it. And those are the cases, and those are the reasons why Anthony Richardson has lost his space and where he's at, his status of what he is. That's very damning. That's very damning for a high draft pick.
Did you see the quotes from Anthony Richardson's agent that came out?
Uh-oh.
So he spoke with ESPN. Derek Jackson's his name, and he said, quote, "We have a lot to discuss. Trust is a big factor, and that is at best questionable right now. Anthony came back and made the improvements in the areas he needed to improve, and by all accounts, he had a great camp. When they needed a big play last year, whose hands did they put the ball in? They put the ball in Anthony's hands." It's like, how does that help the situation? And he's kind of tiptoeing around, reportedly. Maybe they'll look for a trade. Maybe dude, the guy was inconsistent. He couldn't stay on the field. And then when he was on the field, he asked for a break and opted out of a game.
That's one play, Jonas.
Okay, but that's a really bad look. That's never
It's a bad look. No doubt about that.
That's a stain.
It didn't hit well with anyone on the team. I can tell you that, because I was really curious about that particular. And I was like, look, I've never seen that before in my life at any level. I mean, I talked with a couple of guys and was like, they're like, yeah, he should just went down and acted like he was injured. Like that's like literally what we were like. It looked so bad from an optics standpoint. It was like, yeah, maybe he just doesn't get it. And here's to his agent's point. Like, maybe he did improve in some areas. The problem is, even with somewhat of what we've seen in the preseason, it's kind of the same thing. There's those splash plays where you go, wow, that's great. And there's those others where you're like, he's just not consistent enough. And by the way, I would push back that you can't develop during practice. There are some fundamental things that he could do better, and he can kind of train himself to do better. I keep going back to the fact he only had 1 year starting in college. And so, how he drops back, how he's seeing the defense, how he's reading the defense, how his feet are synced with that. There are fundamental things when I watch his game. I don't feel like he's consistently doing like those basic fundamentals with his footwork, which is one of the reasons why I feel like he tends to be off sometimes, in particular on third down, where the windows are tighter, the timing has to be tighter, and you have to be very precise with where you're going with the football and what you're doing with your feet. So to me, there's still a ton of, fundamental work he can do to improve upon all that, because all the tools are there. I mean, he has got as much upside as anyone in the NFL. It's just he hasn't had the chance to really develop and hone in on some of those. And you could go through your list of other guys who through the years have continued to develop once they've gotten to the NFL with some of those fundamental things. I mean, I'm not trying to compare him to Aaron Rodgers, but do you remember how Aaron Rodgers used to throw before he got in the NFL? I mean, he would hold the ball like back almost like it was up above his shoulder, like in a static spot. And then as he developed over those 3 years where he really didn't play much, he started to drop the ball down more around his chest, got a little more fluid with that. So you can definitely change some things and grow and progress and mature as a passer. I mean, you can make the same case for Jordan Love. I don't think he had as many issues with his throwing motion. He just had to clean up some of his footwork. But same thing. I mean, watching Aaron Rodgers and how he handled things, how he's able to develop. Unfortunately for the Colts, Richardson got drafted, and they thrusted him in there rather early. He gets injured, and his rookie year kind of goes to the wayside.
There is a silver lining to all of this for Anthony Richardson, and his agent just needs to relax and chill out. There's a silver lining. It's Daniel Jones that started.
Oh.
He doesn't have to hope for an injury, really. Like you would think, like, oh, they brought in the you got. There's it's Daniel Jones.
Steichen said it. He's a play away.
Well, Daniel Jones could, if those supporting cast members don't show up, if it's on Daniel Jones solely to make it work.
By the way,
happen.
Brady alluded to this. I didn't realize it's been 2014 since they've won the division, and that is. If you were to just ask 10 people, at least 9 out of 10 would tell you probably the weakest division in the NFL, and the Colts haven't won it in over a decade.
Dang.
It's a long-ass time.
14.
Andrew Luck
was
the quarterback of that team.
Can I give you guys an idea as to like how that came about? So typically during the end of the year, and I get to call these for Fox, it's always a joy, where you're talking about whether or not coaches are, I'm being sarcastic, by the way, you're talking about whether or not coaches aren't going to be retained, or general managers and the players in the roster trying to play for all 31 other teams in the NFL at that point. There's a blame game that goes on behind the scenes. And when you're calling an NFL game, there's different people who will just generally approach you because they know you're a vessel for them to talk about what's happened and what maybe needs to happen or should happen, almost like you can shape public perception. For people out there who don't understand, this is politics at the highest level in the NFL and guys trying to keep their jobs. And some points that were brought up in regards to Chris Ballard were, hey, they haven't won the division since Chris Ballard's been there. So, yes, there's some players that you might look at and say, oh, that's a good draft pick, that's a good draft pick, or maybe some decisions that were made in regards to extensions or free agents, whatever the case may be. But they did make sure to highlight that since Chris Ballard's been there, this has not been a roster that, I don't know, you guys tell me. Do you look at it and say it's
no, I don't
one
look,
of the best
no,
in the AFC?
It doesn't jump out at you. But I'm more of a name brand guy too, though. There could be some really, really fine football players on this team, and they just don't hit the name brand.
Are they Kirkland? Are they like
they are definitely
okay.
Kirkland.
All right, I get it.
They're definitely Kirkland.
Okay,
No Pepsi,
but
no Coca-Cola on this roster.
RC Cola,
Not yet. It's RC Cola.
You guys get my point, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there becomes that blame game of, well, you know, Shane Steichen's been here. They've kind of, in some of the years, been able to kind of keep it close down the stretch. Haven't quite been able to make it. But if they could just make some roster improvements, you know, there's different thoughts and things that are said. And you hear those things and you kind of internalize and go, okay. Not that this is going to make it on air, but it is interesting to point that out. It's been over a decade. And usually someone has to take the fall for that or the blame for that. And maybe in this case, again, because of the ownership structure now with, you know, the Irsay, I would say daughters, you know, inheriting this, they might just want a clean slate altogether. And I think that's part of this decision is they want to go with a guy, even as bad as LeVar just made out what it's been in New York, they look at a season, we're like, hey, if we can get that season out of them, we feel like we can be competitive and we can win some football games. You know, like we feel like, I mean, but that's the reality of it. Like that's what they're trying to hang on to.
That's a bad look for Anthony Richardson. It's just a bad look. Like that just tells you what they feel about Anthony Richardson. They brought him in, and he won the job. Or, better yet, Anthony Richardson gave that job away. That's, in my estimation, Anthony Richardson, more so than Daniel Jones coming in and taking that job. He gave it away.